Ho, ho, ho! No, it's not Christmas in May. I'm talking about James Ho, H-O. He's a judge. He sits in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. He sits all the way to the right. He's so right his car doesn't make left turns. He's so right he's trying out every day, every way for the United States Supreme Court. It's like a big dress rehearsal. We just had what should have been a simple administrative order based on the Supreme Court chastising the Fifth Circuit. Even the Supreme Court right wing thought that the Fifth Circuit screwed up, thought that Judge Hendricks screwed up in Texas by not giving those poor, about to be deported Venezuelans enough time to make their argument in court that they were not members of Tren de Aragua, or they shouldn't be sent to a dark prison in a foreign prison in El Salvador. And the Trump administration was trying to load them into planes in the middle of the night. Remember that? Supreme Court said twice, 7-2. No, stop. We're trying to make the ruling. You can't send the people and ferry them away and fly them away from federal jurisdiction so the federal courts can't make rulings. Stop. And trial judge, you were wrong. And Fifth Circuit, you were wrong. And why are you dragging us, the United States Supreme Court, into doing some lowly things like we got to issue injunctions because you haven't? They were pissed. And now Judge Ho has decided he's pissed. So he's going to fire back the United States Supreme Court. So in an administrative order that should have just transferred the case at the appellate court level to a different appellate 3-judge panel, no, Judge Ho couldn't help himself. 8 pages of attacking the Supreme Court, defending Donald Trump, defending MAGA. He's just trying to get on the Supremes. We break it down for you the only way we know how, with truth, not blowing smoke or sunshine, on unprecedented. Me and Dina Doll. Take a listen. Well, let's move on to All Things Alien Enemies Act. That's still going on.
Yeah. Oh my
Even though I was away, that's still happening. And got a new ruling from a Georgia judge, consistent with what we saw in the Eastern District and the Northern District of Texas and in Colorado and in New York. And so that's the only outlier is a judge in Pennsylvania. And the Supreme Court, though, made a ruling we should touch on. I did a hot take on it at kind of around the time, but we got a 7-2 decision that's popped up against Donald Trump. And then that got the attention of Judge Ho. Why don't you kind of walk our audience through that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they really reaffirmed. I mean, so far the Supreme Court has been consistent with what they've said with the Aliens Enemies Act, which is, well, they're again still not looking at the substance, but you can't deport people under this right now. And that was the 7-2 decision. As we know, Alito and Thomas dissented. Good news. I mean, we see still people being deported or attempt to be deported to South Sudan. There's still crazy stuff going on, but this use of the Aliens Enemies Act is being paused under the Supreme Court. Judge Ho, as you have mentioned, Popok, in an earlier episode, that he is auditioning. And so I thought it was pretty awesome that he came out with like a campaign statement, basically. Like, how predictable are you going to be, people?
Yeah, he out-magged. He was like, I'm not even sure Clarence Thomas would have written as strident an attack and defense of Donald Trump as Judge Ho. By the way, for no reason, I'm just going to say what happened. You when you get there, and I'll do the whole thing. You'll get into the nitty-gritty. But the Supreme Court sends back with instructions to the Fifth Circuit and tells them, you got it wrong. You should have granted the injunction. You shouldn't have let the planes fly to Venezuela and fly these people away from federal jurisdiction. You should have grounded the planes so we can get a hand. Why are we being stampeded into making decisions while people are in flight? Stop the flights. Let the Supreme Court, let this come up through proper channels. The Supreme Court, why are you turning us? This was the Supreme Court was getting pissed too. Why are you turning us into a lower level trial court? How dare you? There was a little bit of umbrage taken in the Supreme Court decision too. And that got, I guess, Judge Ho all fired up. So he sent it back. So all the Fifth Circuit did, including Ho, was to issue an administrative order that they're not even handling the decision. They said this should be assigned to another randomly selected 3-judge panel. We're done to follow the instructions of the Supreme Court. That's all that should have said. Mm-hmm. One line. We're not handling it. Some other panel is going to handle it. Good night, everybody. But that's not what Judge Ho did.
No, he kind of reiterated, right, the Supreme Court went too far. He kind of even alluded to Trump. The president is being, um, you know, unfairly ruled against. I mean, it was definitely Justice Thomas, please resign. I'm ready for your position. I don't even know if his opinion was targeted so much to Trump or Thomas, because nothing will happen if Thomas doesn't step down first. But it is so unusual, especially in a 7-2 position. I mean, this is a very strong position for the Supreme Court to take, for a lower court, even an appellate court judge, to kind of be so rude in his language toward the Supreme Court, or so, I guess you could say, rebellious in the language. This would not have happened pre-Trump, like, ever. And I think this is, I suppose, how now these MAGA judges think they're going to get their jobs, right? But that was a development to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's two people trying out at the Fifth Circuit. Andrew Oldham, who is as terrifying as Ho in his own way. But he's got another cross to bear, considering we're talking about religion today, because he's like a white guy. Oh. Ho is at least Asian or Pacific American or whatever it is. So, but that never stopped Trump. Trump doesn't care about diversity, equity, and inclusion. He would have all white men if he could, right?
He would.
So those two have been trying out. I would be shocked if Donald Trump gets another opening, like Thomas or Alito in the next term, decide, I'm going to let Trump get my seat. Mm-hmm. If he didn't pick from the Fifth Circuit. I mean, that whole circuit is like trying out. And it was ridiculous. It was and he got all under the collar and like, and the Supreme Court obviously favored clients like Tren de Aragua. Right, the Supreme Court's favoring a narco-terrorist gang from Venezuela, and they were rude to Judge Hendricks in Texas and to the Fifth. Because I said it early on. If you read between the lines, the Supreme Court was pissed at the Fifth Circuit. It was pissed at Hendricks, and was pissed that they were being dragged in to issue orders at their lofty level. It was it was almost like, this is so beneath us that we have to issue this effing injunction because you guys didn't do your job. Because you guys didn't. And Ho was like, well, wait a minute. You're disrespectful to the president. I'm like, by the way, no mention by Ho at all about the lack of notice, the lack of time, due process, squiring these people away in the middle of the night to avoid federal jurisdiction. Lack of due process. None of this mattered to him. It was only the what do I call it? The clutching of the pearls and the heaven to Betsy. Are you effing kidding me? Are you really kidding? So, all right, that was Ho's tryout. Yeah. But why don't you touch at the end here on the Venezuelans and the TPS and what we got a new ruling out of that as well that we can end on.
So as we know, Kristi Noem moved to basically cancel the temporary protective status of about 350,000 Venezuelans. So groups went in to stop that, to say the way she was doing it was discriminatory, a pretext, again, like not following process, not following law. This went all the way up to the Supreme Court because the lower court agreed, like, I'm not going to allow you to deport them until we find out whether or not you can legally cancel them this way. And sadly, the Supreme Court said, oh, no, we're allowing you to go ahead and deport them while we still figure out whether or not you can legally deport them. So again, this was procedural, not substantive. Nobody has gone to the matter of whether or not they can legally deport them. But talk about very real consequences for people, because these people have legal status. Trump campaigned on getting rid of illegal immigration. These people are here legally. They went through a really difficult, time-consuming legal process to get this status that is being canceled. And, if they get deported and then they get decided a year later that it was illegal, I mean, good luck with that. I don't know if they can ever come back. So the very real consequence is Trump is getting his way. And it's not going to end with Venezuela. As we know, they are planning on canceling the temporary protected status or already have for Afghanistan's that helped during, like, interpreters and others that helped the military. They're canceling Haitians under the temporary protective status. So this is just the beginning. Again, Trump, as he's bringing in, right, white Afrikaners, is getting rid of people who are here legally, people of color that are here legally, and the Supreme Court isn't stopping him. So again, the Supreme Court is like such a mixed bag these days, right? Because, we're like happy one day and then we're like, no, you didn't, because good for them on the Aliens Enemies Act. But like, really, you're allowing them to get deported without even knowing if they can legally. So it's tough. It's tough to cover them today because, one day I'm happy with their decision, and the other day I totally disagree.
Yeah, and we're watching. This is the struggle. The only thing that keeps us honest is Sotomayor, Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, who wrote a long decision against the ruling, pointing out the hypocrisy, pointing out the inconsistency in the analysis. And there's going to be other cases. Look, we just had a federal judge that was like, no, you can't send to the unstable nation of the Sudan a group of people who are not Sudanese because their home countries wouldn't take them back. No, you can't send Cubans and Mexicans to the Sudan, which the State Department declares is an unstable region. It's just crazy. And eventually somebody's going to bring up an argument, this is cruel and unusual punishment and violates the Eighth Amendment, because I don't think you can export your justice system to a third world country and just turn a blind eye and go, well, I wonder what happened to that guy. I mean, Trump is set up like a trap door system, just like, and that they just disappear. Like, I don't know what happened to him. I can't get him back. Lord knows where they went. It's like, I'm sorry, that is not I did not sign up for, right, offloading or delegating to third world and second world countries that don't share our values, the tail end of our justice or immigration system.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we'll take it, we'll get you to the 5-yard line and then we're sending you to Cuba or Russia or North Korea. Like, what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And why the Supreme Court isn't more up in arms about this?
Yeah.
If you take it from a big picture standpoint, I have no blessed idea. I don't know how you can, it just so undermines the ideals of our constitutional republic at every level.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sorry, I don't want to live in a country where it's okay to send people to a gulag that's run by people that are not Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want, just do it here. Send him to just build a supermax. I don't know why Donald Trump's having so many problems with this. All of his friends that contributed to his campaign are in the private prison business. Okay. This whole thing that we reported on Legal AF about, a congresswoman who just got arrested and charged with a felony related to her, trying to oversee the new detention center for immigrants that was opened up in Newark, New Jersey. That's run by a private prison company that donated heavily to Donald Trump. Okay. So just give your buddies who gave you money, give them the clients that they want, the inventory that they want, and just put everybody in supermax, but keep them in the United States. So if we ever need to pop them out for a federal court appearance, they're over here.
But the problem is they haven't committed a crime that would sentence them to a supermax.
Right? Details, schmetails.
But that's the problem, is they have created somebody crossing into our border, having a life sentence in a prison in El Salvador. Nowhere in our law is that the punishment or consequence, right? So, there's so many levels.
We're going to get them all back. The good news is, if you weren't motivated to get off the couch and register to vote and vote for, give us the House and the Senate back. That'll start the process of having checks and balances. Whether impeachment and conviction happens, people know my opinion about that. But at the very least, we will have a more well-balanced government, and we'll start putting an end to a lawless rogue president as we move into a 2028. And if the White House is taken by the Democrats, there were 120 executive orders in the first 100 days and 50 on the first day. We're going to have 50 or 100 on the first day. And one of them is we're bringing all these people back. Well, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them are coming back.
Yeah. And on that point, like I'm a delegate to the California Democratic Party, and we have our convention next weekend, and candidates are well out there already, like organizing, talking to groups, campaigning. We are already starting the primaries. So if
Yeah.
you are in your areas, reach out to your Democratic groups and clubs and whatever. The primaries, in terms of the political sense, are here. They are here. Candidates are already starting the groundwork. And I am going to, there's some groups that I get involved with in terms of volunteer opportunities throughout the country. And I'm going to try to get some that we can very concrete ideals like share with our audience. But just in the meantime, like we may think the midterms are so far away, but they're here. Choosing the candidates are so important right now, even within the Democratic Party.
Well,
go and see who's running in your area.
Well, that's the point. And people always ask me, and I'm sure they do to you also in chat and otherwise, Popok, what can we do? We're telling you what to do. You have to. I assure you that if you think you have resolved if you're a mail-in ballot type of person, you've resolved and are properly registered for mail-in, and you live in a red state, especially, I assure you, you have to go and re-register. And there's deadlines related to that. Don't assume that what you did before, even a year ago, is still, they've tried to pull the tablecloth off the table and the rug out from under you so many times you can't even keep track. Just make sure you spend the time, spend a few hours now, so you're not up against the deadlines for voting, to get your registration right. That and street protests and phone calls and letters to congressmen and senators to put pressure on them, and putting pressure on them in town hall meetings, should they hold any, and pressuring their constituent services offices and that type of thing. And then be here, be part of the fellowship here that we've established on Legal AF, your one-stop shopping for all things law and politics. Welcome back. That was unprecedented. We sit at the intersection of law, politics, and the United States Supreme Court every week, so you don't have to. And there's so much to talk about between now and even the end of the summer. The term is over. We're waiting on 20 more decisions of the United States Supreme Court. They're going to be doing Trump cases all summer. Cancel your summer vacations. I'm talking to the Supreme Court justice, but maybe you too. Cancel your summer vacations. Be here on Legal AF. Hit the subscribe button. We got so much to talk about. So many amazing contributors. Brand new podcast just joined exclusively on Legal AF and the Midas Touch Network called It's Complicated with Asha and Renato. You don't want to miss them. Former FBI, current national security and law experts. They come together every week. They got a great vibe. You don't want to miss it. It's Complicated also here on the Legal AF YouTube channel. If you want to vote for our content, vote for our contributors, and say that you're part of this fellowship and take a receipt, hit the subscribe button. Come on over to our Substack as well. And of course, Legal AF, the podcast, top 13 in the world, not because of me. I mean, I do my part because of you. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event, by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states, and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.